All right, and you're live.
Good evening, Sandusky community. We'd like to welcome you from the Sandusky Primary Elementary. We are also going to be welcoming our guests this evening and are also welcoming the Pre-K at our middle school. They will also be speaking. Tonight we are in our media center. We cannot give you a view of the whole building, but we are off to a great start. We want to thank everyone in our community, all of our families, all of our parents, our students, our tech group, our teachers who have worked diligently throughout this last week with all of our devices in a great start in a great week. We know that this is a great struggle, but the kids are learning, and we are very excited about this virtual start. We want to get everybody back in the buildings as soon as we can, but tonight is one of the first of 3 community forums that we will have throughout this week. And at this time, I will turn over to Ms. Pace from our Pre-K.
Good evening. I am Ms. Pace. I'm the principal of the former Hancock Elementary School and current principal of the reconfigured Pre-K building, the Sandusky Early Learning Academy. As the academic construction foreman, which I call myself, for the early learning crew, we have worked together to create an educational blueprint for our parents and early learning students who we will service this year for their academic success. We have started with going through training before our virtual learning began with an adoption of a new program called Tech Me Mom, the Tech Me Mom program. It's Teach Me to Read at Home. It teaches parents the most critical skills needed to best prepare their child for the academic rigor of learning to read at home for preschool and kindergarten. It's a technology-based program that also provides parents with step-by-step evidence-based activities that are very comprehensive for our parents and our students alike. We are off to a great start. We're excited about this virtual start as we combined our combined enrollment for pre-K and also for kindergarten. Our numbers have doubled at the Early Learning Academy. This is very encouraging and exciting for us all. Our continued success as a community of believers for our students could not be carried out without having a leader with a clear and concise plan. One who is organized when he leads, a leader with a transparent vision, a leader that is transformative, a leader who is engaging and makes decisions for the overall good of the Sandusky City School District students and community, also our staff and outside stakeholders. The Sandusky City School District is fortunate to have all of this and more with our current CEO and superintendent, Dr. Eugene Sanders, and I would like to welcome Dr. Eugene Sanders.
Thank you, Ms. Pace, for that very nice introduction. Thank you, Mrs. Moratori. We're delighted to be here at our primary school on the first night of our virtual community forum. And we're looking forward to engaging you and providing ample time for you to write your questions in online, and we'll be engaged in full-time discussion in Q&A with you as we go forward. At this point, it's my pleasure to bring forward our new president of the Board of Education. This might be her first actual full duty as president of the board, but we'd like to welcome Mrs. Martha Murray. Mrs. Murray.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. Welcome to a school year like no other. I would like to thank Dr. Sanders, Mrs. Yvonne Anderson, who was our interim treasurer until June, and our new treasurer, Mr. Jeff Hall, for the steadfastness and leadership over the last 6 months. I'd also like to thank the administrative team and their staffs for the long hours and difficult discussions preparing for this school year. In addition, my fellow board members, Mrs. Green Churchwell, Mr. Patterson, Mrs. Vargo, and Ms. Sizemore have been engaged from day one of this crisis. We must not forget the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers, the paraprofessionals, the maintenance and custodial staff, the technology staff, the principals, and of course, the teachers who have all gone above and beyond to help make this school year happen, although it is definitely different. Parents, grandparents, and community members, thank you for entrusting your children to us. Please be patient and understanding with our staff when issues occur. Please support your children and their friends when they get frustrated or need assistance. And please give yourselves a pat on the back. We are truly all in this together. Students, look at this as a big adventure. Don't give up. We have full confidence that you can all do this. We all want you back in school as soon as possible, but the new skills you are learning now will always be part of your education in Sandusky schools. Thank you and good luck in this school year. Dr. Sanders.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Murray, and thank you for being here along with our Vice President, Mr. Patterson, and members of the senior team. Tonight, we're going to be using a PowerPoint presentation. We're going to have this on our website so you can download it. So throughout our presentations, you may see just a screen and may hear our voice over it. But it's our way of making sure we kind of stay on track and we make sure we give you all the information that you need to have. I wanted to start out tonight by making sure you are aware that obviously over the first 9 weeks, we're on a virtual platform. And we've set out 3 basic goals over the course of the next 9 weeks. One of those goals focuses on just making sure that since March of this current year, we've been in the most significant paradigm shift in the delivery of education in the last 100 years in our nation, and specifically here in our city. And as a result, our first goal is really to talk about taking care of each other, showing care and concern, and focusing on customer service, which means we want to be accessible, we want to be available. And one of the reasons that the board has directed us to have this community forum, and tonight virtually, is to be able to have a touch point with you as parents and grandparents and community members about any questions or comments or observations you might have about the district. A second goal focuses on our digital platform. Obviously, we have significantly advanced our technology priorities in the district, and we're proud to be able to provide laptop computers to all of our students in the district. And we'll talk tonight about that process and how to get in touch with us throughout the course of the day as issues might arise. As our board president said, Mrs. Murray, this is new for all of us, and students not just in Sandusky, but throughout the area are having similar experiences in terms of engaging instruction on a pure virtual technology-driven platform. And then our final goal for the year is to, even though we're in the context of the first 9 weeks and it's all virtual, we also need to talk about the future and next year and the following year and what it looks like. We would love to be in our new buildings. We would love to show them off to our parents and our kids and our larger community. And rest assured, we'll get an opportunity to do that. But for right now, we're on this virtual platform and we're committed to making it happen. Tonight, we'll talk a little bit about the start of our school year. We'll talk about our laptop distribution process. You'll get a financial overview, a synopsis of our financial situation, and you'll hear about our academic plans and the instructional work that we're doing in the district. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's next in terms of the next 9 weeks of our process here in the district. Tonight, I'm joined by members of our senior leadership team. You'll be hearing from them in this order. Right now, our Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, Mr. Jeff Hall, will give you a financial overview. Mr. Hall then will yield the podium to our Chief of Staff and Transformation Officer, Dr. Stephen Sturgill, who will go over the logistics and some of our rules and protocols in terms of where we're at and where we're headed. And then Dr. Valesia Cade, our Chief Academic Officer, will walk us through the instructional goals and perhaps a little bit specific to the work happening here in our pre-K through grade 2 program. So thanks for joining us. Mr. Hall.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Sanders. Good evening, parents, stakeholders, taxpayers. I have the honor to present a brief overview, and I promised Doc to keep it to a synopsis and not get too far into the weeds with regards to a $50 million budget. But on the slide, and KK, I believe the slide is up, this is a brief overview that really just gives you our year-by-year blow of revenues versus expenditures and our cash balances, which is most important. That helps things keep running. But this last school year, I call it fiscal year 20, that was the 2019-2020 school year. We saw the first time in many years that we were actually deficit spending, which means our expenses outweighed or were greater than our revenues. Honestly, not too unusual for public school finance, but nonetheless, it is somewhat inevitable that it happens on occasion, and it's what we do with it is what matters. So what we are doing to combat that are many things, which I'll get into here in a minute, but obviously during, as you all are witnessing, is a COVID-related effect to probably your pocketbook as well as this, and so I would equate that to the school's pocketbook as well. I'll get into a slide here in a second that will go over some of the COVID-related expenditures we did not expect, but that we are working through and dealing with the help of our state and federal compadres from a grant perspective, and I'll get to that in a minute. But just the brief overview really does include, 50% of our revenue comes from the state of Ohio, and about 37% comes from our real property owners, all of you out there, in the form of property taxes. So 37% is the next largest percentage of revenue that we really depend on to make things go. Federal and state grants, which really is something that we really are depending on to assist us in if not breaking even, to offset some of the COVID-related and our typical state reduction of revenue. So I shouldn't say that this is a typical year, because we have experienced about a $1.14 million reduction in state aid, which was announced in May, and does also include this school year. So from last May throughout this entire year, we are experiencing an overall $1.14 million cut in state aid. If I were to move on to the next slide, that really explains a little bit or gives you a brief overview of my job and my staff's job, and really the entire staff of the entire school district is, I use the word vigilant. I should use, I think Mrs. Murray used steadfast, which I think is probably a better word in how we manage our general fund, the money that we do have. And so this slide that I'm showing you here is really the COVID-related cost, our total expenditures, as well as our funding sources. So not to go line by line, but you can imagine our purchase services, any of our contracts or our supplies to keep everybody safe, but also from a funding source perspective, which has really been very, very important. Coronavirus relief funds, our CARES Act, is bringing about 1.6 million right now. Up to date, we're spending about, or have encumbered at least 1.9 million. So we still have a funding deficit when it comes to COVID. However, we are, as a district, making that up on the funding gap resources, which are going to be everything from a permanent improvement budget to additional grants. Our local foundations have been very generous, as well as our state and federal friends with some of these grants that have been very, very critical for us going forward. But also expense control, which really accounts to personnel. So we've seen some attrition as well as retirements, which will actually assist us in our overall cost structure going forward. So just a brief overview. I'm going to yield to my colleague, Chief of Staff, Dr. Stephen Sturgill, who's up next.
Well, good evening, all Blue Streaks, and thank you for being on with us. The one thing I want to talk about, we are invested in safety. We've put a lot of time and effort in making sure that our staff and our students are safe and secure, whether we're being a remote environment as we are right now, or when we come back into a hybrid or face-to-face model. I want to ensure that we're doing everything possible to make sure that we are safe, staff and students. At our last forum, I talked about some of the things that we already put in place to make sure that we are proactive in safety, whether it be the hydro bottle fillers, replacing the water fountains, or the hand sanitizer stations, disinfectant spray and wipes for all rooms, and masks for students and staff. One of the new requirements that has come down from the Ohio Department of Health and the governor's office is that we have to report all COVID cases in writing to all of our parents and guardians within 24 hours of knowing that there is a positive COVID case. So when we do have a positive case, we will notify our parents, and also our report will be on our website, and it'll be at the link, www.scs-k12.net at our coronavirus hub. And also will be found on the district and families drop downs on the website. So we know getting a lot of phone calls about our laptops, and I just want to put this slide out again. If you are experiencing any issue with your laptop or computer or device, please contact 419-984-1012 or email techhelp@scs-k12.net. We know that we have the resources available, and we're there and ready to help all of our families as we start this remote learning. So be patient as we work through some of these issues, and we will ensure that the computers are up and running. Also, a lot with Google accounts. If you need any help with a Google account, please email Brooke. It's at baustin@scs-k12.net. So what I'm really excited is that we have various food locations throughout the city, and students at the age of 18 and under are eligible for free breakfast and lunch bags. And each bag includes one breakfast, one lunch, 2 veggies, 2 fruits, and 2 tossed milks. And you can see there the locations and the pickup times. We have locations from 7:30 to 8:30 and also 12 to 1. So please take advantage. They're free, they're for the families, for our students. Please, if you need any assistance or anything, please give us a call so we can make sure that you are getting the food that you need and you deserve. All right, very important. We know that this is a very difficult time for all of our students. And we just want to make sure that you know that there is help out there for all of our families. And so this slide, which will also be on our website tomorrow, outlines some of the supports that are available for the students. As you can see, we have our social workers, and they're available. And also we have a counselor at each school. Also, Officer Eisman and Officer Martin will be our 2 SROs, and they are in the district working, and they are available. So there I have listed their position, their phone, and their email. So very important. If you're struggling, you need somebody to talk to, you need some help, please reach out to one of them or call the schools and ask for them. They're there, they're excited and ready for the school year. They're excited to talk to you, the students. So make sure that you use that resource and reach out to them. So now I get to introduce my partner in crime, Dr. Valesia Cade.
Thank you, Dr. Sturgill. Good evening, members of our community. I would first like to just start by thanking our principals and our teachers for their undying efforts in preparing for the opening of this school year. I would like to give a shout out to the instructional leadership team for all of your late nights and weekends. Know that we appreciate you. First and foremost, our work this year will focus on advancing our academic recovery plan, which is planting the seed for academic recovery, where we're focusing on 4 key areas of work: social emotional learning, explicit instruction, enrichment, and digital-based learning. Now, we have 3 priorities for the next few weeks. We're focusing on academic priorities that will help support self-care and trauma-informed learning for our students and our staff. In addition to ensuring that the schools are at the center of our organization, meaning that the district office provides support, direct support to our principals and our teachers. In addition to expanding and continuing to support the professional learning and growth of our teachers and our principals, our paraprofessionals, and all of our staff. Resources, ensuring that we're identifying additional resources as our teachers continue on this journey of digital convergence. Our number one priority will be effective virtual instruction. Having the opportunity for our teachers to plan or their playlists or lesson plans is important because this is a huge change in the way we do business. In addition to that, collecting and analyzing data, we talked a little bit at the first forum about COVID academic loss. And so it's important that we get an assessment of what kids know and what they do not know so that we can provide support and close some of those learning gaps. So we'll be giving each child a baseline assessment, and I'll talk a little bit about the pre-K through second grade assessments this evening. We're going to be continuing professional learning opportunities, whether it's around the science of reading, as we continue to build the foundation of our house, in which Mrs. Pace is working with our Early Learning Academy. We're focusing on building those foundational skills around reading. And then she's going to pass those students off to Mrs. Moratori, whose staff will continue to support that learning around the science of reading. Our second priority really has to do with building a digital ecosystem. As we've been catapulted into the 21st century and learning in a 21st century model, we will have to build a digital ecosystem or have things that our staff can access to help them teach virtually. We have to ensure that there's accessibility to the Google Classrooms, that families and students can access information and learning, those virtual lessons with ease. And so each of our schools will be developing what we call a digital hub, where all of our teachers' Google Classrooms will be located and parents will be able to access those classrooms through the digital hub. We'll also be working on addressing the individual needs of our students. Our teachers and our principals have identified digital resources that will help support and address individual student learning needs with greater ease and strengthening accountability in the monitoring system. Our third priority really has to do with our baseline assessments. And really, baseline assessments are what we call formative assessments. It is going to give us important information on what your child know in terms of any learning regression from last year. We need to know what that is so that we can identify those gaps in learning. And what we do in education is we identify power standards. These are basically skills and content that students will need to know and be able to do at each grade level. And then our teachers and our principals will work diligently to develop plans that support those gaps in learning that address the appropriate grade level learning and content. And so when we talk about baseline assessments, our preschool and our early learning students, our preschool students will take what the state of Ohio calls the early learning assessment. And this basically gives us information on students' readiness for learning. It focuses on social functions. It focuses on foundational skills around language, literacy, mathematics, and science, and social studies to some degree, which is appropriate for the preschool kids. And then Acadians and our kindergarten readiness assessment. Those two assessments will be given by appointment. All of our assessments at this time, Mrs. Pace and her staff are testing students this week. Those tests are very important. It's very important for our staff to know what our young students know so that we can address the gaps in their learning and continue them on their trajectory for learning. Mrs. Moratori and her staff will be given Acadians at the first grade level. This assessment really focuses on discrete skills around reading. In addition to that, the second grade will do an assessment on Acadians, and at some point we'll open up the discussion around STAR, the STAR assessment, which will help us dig a little deeper in terms of diagnostic assessments. And so at this time, I'm going to yield the floor to our CEO and Superintendent, Dr. Sanders. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cade. We are actually ahead of schedule this evening. And so thank you to my staff for making sure that that takes place. But we're going to be here at 7 o'clock regardless. So let's get that straightened out. We'd like to, at this time, engage with you with questions that you might have. And I know there's one question that Tasha has asked via Facebook. basically talking about what's the timeline around determining the next 9 weeks or the next phase or the next process that the district will go through. And our communications, marketing communications staffer, Ms. Pugh, will help monitor questions as they come. So feel free to send your questions in. It's a great time to have this kind of dialogue with you. So obviously the Board of Education, like all boards across the nation, was faced with a very difficult decision over the course of the late summer and early fall, how to manage coming back to school in what format. And as you recall, we had multiple options that we were reviewing, and ultimately Sandusky City Schools made what we felt was the safest choice in terms of safety and making sure that our kids and families, our faculty and staff were taken care of. And so we decided to move with a virtual platform, meaning that kids, students, pre-K through 12 are on a virtual platform over the course of the first 9 weeks. And so we committed to the board at that time that we would review this every couple of weeks and to kind of see where things are. And the board has, in large part, really relied on the health department, the safety factors, the number of cases, COVID cases, the number of people who are having various kinds of experiences, what the data is sharing, what the data is suggesting, rather, of the direction that we should go. And so over the next week or two, we'll be re-engaging the board. We'll be re-engaging our partners at the county health department, assessing matters on a statewide and national basis to make the next decision as to how we might move forward. And there are a couple of options. We could go with a hybrid plan, which essentially is where we would split our students up into 2 halves. And section A, or group A, would go to school on Monday and Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, have a virtual platform. And then the other group of students would come to school on Thursday and Friday, and then have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in a virtual context. Or if the data suggests, and the board, after we review everything, we'll be making a recommendation to the board. And then we could determine that based upon the number of students that still want to remain online, that are we in a position to exercise our safety standards, which of course is the 6 feet of separation, the mask, and the other matters around large groups, determining if we are positioned and ready to go back to a 5-day kind of work week for our staff and 5-day traditional school environment. So let me be clear about one thing that we need you to get from tonight. The folks in this room and the faculty and staff and the Board of Education, there's no group in this city that wants to get our kids back in school for 5 days than the group that's sitting here tonight. I assure you that. But we have a responsibility as leaders to make sure that we review the data, we make an assessment, we have dialogue. And I'm pretty sure President Murray will be giving us some direction as to how we will have dialogue and discussion about it. And we'll do it in a time frame that will give us time to transition. So we just won't give you a message on Friday and then Monday we're switching to a new design. So that's forthcoming. You can always email me at askdrsanders@scs-k12.net or call my office at 419-984-1000 or call any of our administrators or staff members. We'll be happy to get information to you. So that's where we're at right now in terms of determining what our next steps will be. And you'll be hearing something very definitive here very soon. But you also will have an opportunity to give us feedback and your thoughts on what those plans might look like. All right, so Ms. Pugh, any other questions from our group? What else do we have?
Will students be required to take the 3rd grade reading test and also the test for graduation?
Okay, so that's an academic question. And the question, I'll repeat it as Dr. Cade comes up, is what's the status of the 3rd grade reading guarantee, which really has to do with testing at the state level. And what was the high school question?
High school graduation
High
test.
school graduation test. Well, we don't, okay, she'll talk about that.
So at this time, there has been no firm decision to cancel state testing. And so we're proceeding as if state testing is underway. It has been told to us that the governor has made a recommendation, but that recommendation has not gone before the General Assembly. So at this point, we will be preparing for the third grade assessment, the high school assessments. We'll be preparing for all of the assessments until we get the signal from the Ohio Department of Education that testing has been postponed or canceled.
So that brings up a really good perspective, folks. That brings up a really good perspective. There are other players in this game. There's the Ohio Department of Education. There's the governor, Governor DeWine, governor of the state of Ohio. Then there's some federal perspectives. And so what the board will do is that they will vet all those perspectives. And then there's some factors we get to give some input in, but we're not the ultimate decision maker. So last year, we did not have state testing as a part of the initial COVID-19 situation. And there's a lot of discussion at the state level now about how to proceed going forward. So once we get more definitive information, and in terms of graduation, we had a very nice, very nice virtual graduation for the class of 2020. We would love nothing more than to be back at Strobel Field in late May, early June of 2021, celebrating with our families for high school graduation. So we'll keep you posted. And tonight is day one of the 3 nights of our virtual forum. Will be any questions that are asked that we can get more information on, we'll be doing that as well. Ms. Pugh?
How have student schedules been determined? Will block schedules be considered for less daily screen time? For example, how was it determined to have first, second, and third graders sit in front of a computer for 4 to 6 hours a day?
Okay, all right. Dr. Cade, you want to take a stab at that?
Maybe the principal's going to.
No, we'll let you guys do it.
All right. So,
They're very capable.
yes, we do have schedules, and one of the things I'll be posting to the website tomorrow is a piece of work that the principals put together called A Day in the Life of a Student. And what that profile will provide for you is the amount of instructional time that each grade band has in terms of instruction. It is not our expectation that students will stay at a computer for 6 hours. If the schedules, each of the students receive the schedule, and once we build that the digital hub, that schedule also will be kept electronically there for you. So on average, it's about 2.5 hours for the preschool students and the kindergarten students, and it's about 3 hours for students in grades first through 6th grade for explicit instruction. Now, some of that time that students are on their Google Meets is time that they're getting direct support with completing their assignments. So there's time for explicit instruction, which the teachers are teaching a lesson about a new concept and skill. And then there's an assignment. And during the time of the assignments, our teachers are on standby, and in some cases have invited some kids to stay on the Google Meet so that they can get more personalized attention. At our middle school and our high school, the students average at about 3 hours of instruction. They follow about 2 to 3 classes of their instruction daily. So it is not our expectation that there will be 6 hours of straight instruction or kids will stay in front of a computer. We know that that is not appropriate and it will not maximize learning. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cade. I think you probably heard us say many times that the absolute best way to have school is when there's a dynamic teacher in the classroom with a lot of eager students there to have an exchange. And that's where we really want to get back to. But I will say that part of our transformation plan these last few years and part of our 2030 initiative going forward, which is our 10-year strategic plan that we'll be sharing out with you in the next few weeks really focuses heavy on technology and using technology as a way to have various forms of instruction. And it's going to be with us forever going forward. So the more we embrace it, I think the better position we will be. One of the questions that has come up deals with what are some of the safety standards and some of the cleaning schedules of our buildings in terms of what are we doing now to prepare when kids will be returning. Just so you are aware, all of the faculty members in the district are at school. We are performing our task in our classrooms and at our various schools. And I'm pleased to say that everyone's here, we're ready to go. We're excited. We just want our kids in front of us to make that happen. But the district has undertaken a pretty robust cleaning and safety set of standards. And Dr. Sturgill can give you a little bit more insight on what we've been doing and where we're headed going forward.
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. Yeah, so like I stated before, we invested in some long-term solutions within the district when it comes to safety, replacing water fountains with our hydro bottle fillers, going with touchless hand sanitizer stations. Each room has hand sanitizer in them, and each room has disinfectant spray that has a 1-minute dry time. So if students do exchange classrooms, we're able to spray the room, which kills any bacteria that might be in there. So currently, all rooms are clean. Now, we ask staff to leave the district by 5 p.m. so our cleaning crew can start. They already started the cleaning process, but really get in there and do some really good cleaning in the classrooms without anybody in the way. So we ask all staff right now to leave by 5 p.m. except for athletics and activities. They're actually stay in the building and do their activities and athletics. But when students do come back, the same process and procedures will be in place. If students stay in the same classroom all day, that cleaning will occur after school. If students do exchange, we have to clean in between the classrooms, and that's where that disinfectant spray, and also we purchased wipes that we got today that will be out in the classrooms actually tomorrow, that are available for our staff and for our students to use.
Dr. why don't you stay there? I think we have a follow up to that.
Has a day-to-day safety plan been approved for kids to return to school yet? Will temperatures be taken? You kind of just talked about this.
Yeah.
Are masks and face shields going to be provided to students, teachers, and staff? Anything like that?
Okay, so as far as the safety approved for us to go back, that has not been determined yet. And like Dr. Sanders said, that'll be forthcoming when the board meets and there's more discussion about us returning to school. Every staff member does have a mask, and we've purchased a mask for every student within the district. And the schools have those masks for staff and for students. And the other one was there, that was it? Okay, thank you very much.
So again, we want to encourage you to send your questions in. We are very transparent. Our board is committed to open dialogue on all topics. If we're not sure about something or something hasn't been determined, we'll say that, and we'll do our research and we'll vet it appropriately. And then once a clearer answer is available, we'll certainly share that with you. I want to mention one other variable that was part of our goals for this first 9 weeks. And I just want to keep re-emphasizing the importance of us looking out for each other as it relates to taking care of our students, our faculty, our staff, being kind to each other, being considerate. We're in a very stressful period. Things are going on in our nation and in our world that's, education speaking, much different than we've ever seen before. It's going to require all of us to put our best foot forward. And what's special about Sandusky City Schools and our community is that we help and support each other. And that goes for our kids, our faculty, and the larger community. We thank you for what you've already done. We know there's a lot more left to do. Yes, we'll be taking temperatures. Yes, we'll have nurses attending to those kind of things. We are trying to make as many plans as we possibly can. If you have suggestions, ideas about how we can do something better or more efficient, we are certainly open to those suggestions. Other questions?
When will kindergarten students be tested?
Kindergarten testing. Our kindergarten principal is here and she's able to respond to that. Ms. Pace?
Thank you, Dr. Sanders. Kindergarten testing has already begun. We started last week scheduling appointments with our parents to assess our students for the kindergarten ready assessment, our crawl assessment. If a student has either registered late or they have not been tested yet, please make sure you call my office tomorrow morning and we will be more than happy to get you scheduled. Our office number is 419-984-1210. And we look forward to seeing our kindergarten students soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pace. I know our numbers are going up at our pre-K, pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. We want those numbers to continue to rise. And we know parents may have some anxiety right through here about various kind of things. As we've always done, we'll take good care of your kids. And if you have any questions, you can call our office there with Ms. Pace and her staff, and we'll be happy to respond to that. And let's do it early so that we can make sure our kids are prepared and ready to go. Other questions?
When students return to school, will there be social distancing, specifically in the hallways when changing classes and in the cafeteria?
Dr. Stewart?
The answer is yes. We'll have social distancing going on. The 6 feet will be in effect. We have actually a document that all the principals have looked at, the staff has looked at, that actually outlines some of the process and procedures that will be in place when we do go back to school. So yes, we'll have to wear masks, and yes, we'll have to maintain 6 feet in the hallways. We will have one-way hallways, and we will have entrances and exits that's different for staff and for students.
And we're going to ask you to be patient as we have to organize traffic flow in the mornings, particularly at the intermediate and the high school. We're going to have 2/3 of our student population in that vicinity throughout the course of the school day and the school year. And we'll do our very best to over-communicate any of the protocols or traffic flows in the hallway or schedules that might be slightly modified in order to make adjustments. And some of this will modify as we go forward based upon new information that comes forward. And we'll be using data, of course, to drive those decisions. Any other questions? What else you got?
Can there be a Zoom to teach parents and grandparents how to use the Google platform? They're being sent to different screens for one lesson, and they're concerned about helping their first grader figure out the platform as well.
Okay, Dr. Cade.
The answer is yes. I know that many of the families received a brief orientation when you picked up your device. So what we'll do is we'll get a few of the video conferences set up, and we'll send something out with the one call through Mrs. Pugh's office, and we'll set something up on Facebook with our 2 technology coaches, Mr. David Hayes and Miss Melissa Phillips. So the answer is yes, we can do that.
Now, if you're a grandparent, maybe like my age, we might need to modify that a little bit for some small groups or some things like that. I think people do really well, particularly my age group, with some dialogue and some Q&A and some follow-up. I know that we're on a virtual platform, but we've been trying to do that. Actually, I think the staff's done a really good job in the orientation for both the parents and the students, where we did have some training that took place on the computer. Is different. It's going to take some patience to kind of work your way through the various platforms, but ultimately we will do everything we can to make that experience as meaningful and less difficult as possible.
are you anticipating testing data to be skewed because of the change in the learning environment?
So the question is whether or not we're expecting the data test scores to be skewed based upon the current environment. So obviously, any time you're doing any kind of testing, there are a lot of variables that impact the scores. For example, a child having a good breakfast and meal prior to testing is a known data point around comfort, or a child having challenges or difficulty at home going into a testing situation. So there are a lot of variables, and without question, the environment that we've been in, both in Sandusky and around the country, likely will have some data points that will not be as consistent as they have been in the past. And so what Dr. Cade and her team's been talking about are summer gaps, COVID gaps, technology-related factors that impact the learning process. There is no substitute for an effective teacher in front of the classroom engaging our kids in powerful instruction. There's no substitute for it. And what we're going through now is our best effort to make sure we do our best to keep kids engaged instructionally. But I think we could anticipate some changes, some modifications in scores. We experience that every summer anyway, when a kid leaves in June and rides his or her bike all summer, and then they come back in late August or September, and there's some time that we spend reviewing and getting kids back up to speed. I think that's one of the reasons why there's some debate now in Columbus about whether or not official state testing should take place this year, just given the fact that we're still in the pandemic and still going through a lot of changes. So as those things are modified, we'll keep you posted. You'll know exactly what's going on. We'll communicate to you either direct mail or certainly through our website or other social media platforms. But you probably can expect some modifications as we go through this experience, because a person's emotion really can drive how well we do, particularly on standardized tests. That's why I'm a believer in multiple testing platforms. That's a discussion for another day. But giving kids multiple ways to show their competence and skill is really important. And that's a conversation for a later day, but you can probably anticipate some skewed data points. But the good part about the skewed data points, I think too, is that we can figure out where those gaps are and assist your child in bridging up those gaps to make sure they're prepared and ready to go.
Are we still offering free internet or hotspots for families who may not be able to afford it?
Dr. Sturgill can talk about that. So the question is, are we offering internet support and hotspots for kids and families who need that support? Yes. And maybe how they access it.
Yes. So the answer is another good yes. We are offering free Wi-Fi through Buckeye Cable. And if you, again, go on our website, log in, and then fill out the form, we'll make sure that Buckeye Wi-Fi has the information so they get to you so you can get that free internet. We also are purchasing hotspots for those families that are unable to get the Buckeye Wi-Fi, and that is forthcoming here in the next 1 to 2 days.
And we should probably add, I know that during the March through June period, there was a lot of local conversations about the bandwidth and the accessibility of videos and other higher volume usage for the internet. And so we understand that those issues have been addressed through our Buckeye Cable partners, and we're looking forward to getting that information out to you. I think we're going to have to make sure we have multiple ways to address that issue, depending on where you're at around town and those kind of things. So we'll keep you posted about the support. We have been fortunate to receive some support from a local foundation in terms of hotspots, and we appreciate the contributions of the Murray Foundation in particular to that effort. And so again, another example of people stepping up to assist our students. So we'll keep you posted. And again, if you're having challenges or issues, there's a hotline number to call. Let's make sure we give that number out again for the tech hotline, where you can call and get support, tech support. I know it's always a little difficult over the phone, and we got to all be patient to walk through the steps of how to get things online the appropriate way.
When we return to school, will students be allowed to wear regular clothes instead of uniforms, since a lot of families are out of work currently?
So I'll answer that one. So I know students over the course of the last several years, every year we get a lot of, not a lot, but we get questions about the uniform policy. And I know the board is sensitive to the context of where our community is, particularly around jobs and around the stability of families and neighborhoods. And so we'll be taking a look at all those variables. We're more focused on making sure that our educational delivery and the academic work that we do are our highest priority. But we certainly will, we always are in a position where we want to look at options and perspectives where appropriate to be able to address the needs of the district. So that's more of a stay tuned. That's not a yes. The two folks before you have been saying yes to everything. So I get, and Ms. Pace said yes. So I'm saying not yet. We'll be working on that. And we know that's important to students and families. And the board is very sensitive to what's happening to our parents in our community. All of us are impacted. Our family members, our extended family members, our church families, our extended families throughout the community. We're all impacted by what's happening in our community. And I know our board will be sensitive and listen thoroughly to suggestions and ways in which we can do things that help kids. But as of right now, there are no changes to that, but we'll address that as we go forward.
For this quarter, is grading going to be curved to serve the best interest of the student, as well as will the school year be extended into the spring to make a fair 9 weeks each quarter?
We don't, I'll answer the extended one, and Dr. Cade can talk about the academic grading dynamic. So I will say this is real school, right? I mean, so this is not make-believe and play around school. This is real school. So academic work and the instructional activities occurring virtually are important. Assignments should be done and graded, and that's part of the regular school process. You can talk more about that, but that's my position on this. I think in terms of going forward, again, we just always want to be in a position where we can have the kind of dialogue about what needs to happen. Now, we are in a position at this point where we don't anticipate the need to have an extended year or extended days. Now, obviously, as the winter and other dynamics takes place, those things could be modified as we go forward. But that, as of right now, we don't anticipate any extended time as it relates to this 9 weeks, because our quarter ends at the end of October. And then at that point, prior to that, we'll be making some decision about how to move forward. Dr. K, you want to add anything to that?
Not really. We have shortened the first quarter, understanding with the start of the new instruction. Know that our teachers will give students every opportunity to get their work done. The first few weeks of our instruction, we're doing that baseline assessment, and there's a lot of social emotional assessments that our teachers are building relationships with kids. And so the first quarter has been shortened with the late start of school, but the regular calendar will continue on. And we don't anticipate any problems with that. As I said, a lot of what we do in the first quarter is around collecting information around what the kids know so that we can prepare lessons that meet their needs, in addition to some relationship building pieces that our teachers traditionally do. So we'll be right on track with our regular calendar year.
Okay, very good. We have about 5 minutes left in our session tonight. Tomorrow night, we'll be coming to you from the new Sandusky Intermediate School, grades 3 through 6. Mrs. Taylor will meet us there. And also our Regional Center for Advanced Academic Studies leader, Mrs. Tara Talk, will be there to join us tomorrow for the forum on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, we'll be at my alma mater, Sandusky High School, room 300. And both Mr. Kozak, our middle school principal, Mr. Talbot, our high school principal, will also be there for that session. and Mr. Morick, who has taken over our adult education program, will be there to provide inquiries about adult education programming as well. Any other questions? Yes, go right ahead.
Are families still able to use the Family Health Services Clinic at Sandusky High School?
Yes.
Okay, so the answer is yes. Now, obviously, we're in virtual context now, so kids are not there in our normal path. The health clinic, I think, can be a real game changer for both students and faculty and for parents. And so we're looking to expand that more substantially and offer kids, our students, a way to stay healthy. And we also hope it helps with our attendance. Now, there might be a correlation between an upset stomach and an upcoming test the next period. I don't know if those correlations are as strong as they used to be, but nonetheless, that is in place, and we look forward to expanding that. Mr. Patterson or Mrs. Murray, is there anything else that you think we should add based on the comments or questions that we got tonight? Anything, Mr. Patterson, anything?
I think that people just need to be patient, and we're doing everything possible. We'd sure like to get the kids back just as quickly as we can.
Yeah. And we'll certainly close with that comment. I think that's quite appropriate. Let me thank our host principal tonight, Mrs. Moratory. Thank you for hosting us in your lovely media center, also known as a library back in my time. But it's a lovely media center. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Ms. Pace, for your presence tonight from our pre-KK building and known as our Sandusky Early Learning Academy. And we look forward to that building coming online, which will be at the Hancock site. Hopefully in 2022, we'll be opening that building, and then we'll have 3 brand new elementary buildings in the district to serve our kids for many, many decades to come. Thank you to our CFO, Mr. Hall, to Dr. Sturgill, to Dr. Cade, and to Ms. Pugh, and our board president. Thank you all for being here tonight. I want to close and kind of mimic a bit or piggyback off of Mr. Patterson's comment. There's no group that would love to see our kids back in school, certainly as soon as possible. And we're working every day to make that a reality within the context of our responsibility as leaders to make sure we do what's in the best interest of the kids in this district. So the next 9 weeks are going to be important to have dialogue about where we are going forward. Our athletics and our student activities are ongoing. We have 2 more forums, one tomorrow night and one on Thursday. And then I'll close with this notion that we're in this amazing period in our educational lives. And it's important that we take one day at a time, one step at a time. I want you to be kind to your fellow classmates, your faculty members, be considerate because everyone's going through something and there's a lot of anxiety and trauma. And our job is to set the stage for success for all parties. And you best believe that's what we're working on every single day. I told the custodians a week or so back, and I told them that we need to be considerate because there may be a person going through something even more traumatic than what we're experiencing. And to be able to help that person through a difficult time by just being kind and considerate can really go a long way. So thank you for joining us tonight at the new Sandusky Primary Elementary building here on the former Ontario school site. We're delighted to be here, and we appreciate your ongoing support. And please send your questions in. Email me directly at askdrsanders@scs-k12.net. Call me directly at 419-984-1000. Thanks for joining us tonight. And as always, go Blue Streaks.